work session meeting agenda for December 11th, 2012 to order. The first request is to revise the agenda to discuss council appointment and alternate appointment to the Mako Legislative Committee. The deadline to submit names is December 14th. You have in your packet, this came to me late Friday afternoon. You have in your packet information from Mako, and I highlighted a charter county with a separate executive branch may have 2 members and alternates if the executive and council do not agree on a single selection. However, the subdivision still has only 1 vote. And I provided you with a list of other memberships from the other counties across the state. So that is open for discussion if you wanted to discuss this item this morning.
I would move that we do something until we have our 5th council person.
Well, I'll suggest, and I read this twice, and now I think I understand. Since Terry Moore, the county executive, was the legislative liaison for Cecil County previously, I would suggest that we continue to allow her to do that as the executive and give her that nomination.
Well, with Alan, I'm fine if we want to put this over until the 5th person comes on board and we can discuss it then with the other appointments. I think that's what we decided to do last week anyway. So.
Well, I think it's important that we have a representative on the legislative side. Extremely important.
We already do. We have you.
Excuse me?
No,
Are you not on it?
not anymore.
No, it was
It's reset.
Terry Moore and alternate was, yes.
It's reset every 2 years.
Yes.
Vicki, do you know, is there a meeting between now and January 15th, January 30th?
You have a meeting on December the 18th, then you have a break. December 25th is Christmas and January 1st is a Tuesday, so you have a 2-week break. So your next meeting would be January 8th, that Tuesday would be your next meeting. And your next evening meeting is January 15th.
The issue, there hasn't been hardly any pre-filed bills, and the legislative session doesn't begin until January 9th.
Correct.
So I don't see any immediacy to the appointment if we want to postpone it to a later time.
Well, I do know that there's a number of initiatives we're going to take on the state level regarding the WIP, TMDL. It's good that we have the Rural County Coalition recognized by Mako. I do serve on that. I'm the appointee to that. And I have a number of things that I'm representing already. So I'm not sure if I can represent Mako as well. But I think it's important.
Well, you're not representing Mako. What you're doing is representing Cecil County
No, I understand
at
that.
Mako. And when they have issues on whether or not to take a position on a bill, they want to know from every county on whether they want to take an issue on a bill.
I'm familiar with the process, and
Okay.
that's why it's so important that we do have representation,
Now,
strong.
when you say
Hold
we-
on, you're interrupting. That we have strong representation. And what happened with the last SB 236, we need to make sure that doesn't happen again. That we have clear communication with our directors on the impacts on these bills, before they are finalized, voted on, that we can bring our concerns to the floor and do what we can to have them addressed. So it's imperative, not just on the executive side, but on the legislative side. Remember, this is what charter is all about: separation and balance of power.
Okay, so the consensus is to pass and wait until we have 5 members.
No, I noticed that December 15th, there is a meeting
have a meeting next Tuesday,
Yes.
and then you're back, January 1st, January 8th is your next meeting after the holidays.
So that is both the work session and the legislative day.
No, it's just the work session.
Okay, what time is that meeting?
Your work session started at 9 a.m.
Sorry, the makeup.
The MACO's bylaws require each subdivision to nominate an elected official for committee membership. These nominees are officially elected during the business meeting at the annual winter conference that is scheduled this year for Thursday, January 3rd, 2013. So that's the timeline from MACO.
Okay, I think we can wait a little while before we appoint on the legislative side.
Okay, so we're just gonna hold this, is that the consensus?
I think we're all agreed.
Okay. Very good, that was the reason for bringing it forward, was because of MACO's deadline. The next discussion process for considering appointment to the District 2 Council seat, Councilman Hodge.
As we all know by now, the process for selecting a replacement for District 2's council seat has changed. And the new process, as I see it, is that the current council sitting members, the 4 of us sitting at this table, have the obligation and the responsibility to try to identify the most qualified council member that would replace Terry Moore's seat. And we should take action to make that happen. And I would encourage us to promote that open seat and ask the community and ask those that qualify in that district, District 2, and have lived there for more than 6 months, to come forward and express their interest in the position. And then we should potentially evaluate and interview them and make a selection from those choices. And that does not preclude the Republican Central Committee from coming forward and making their recommendations also. I have no problem with them weighing in on the matter and who they support. But we, the council members, are now responsible for that choice. And we can choose from their list, or we can choose from all the available applicants that come forward.
Vicki, I thought we had a contract with Norm Wilson. It's still in place? I thought he was going to.
Okay, we're on discussion item number 1 on the agenda. Has to do with replacing.
I was actually going to ask our attorney a question related to that, but he's not here.
Are you questioning the validity of us selecting the vacancy?
Yes, I've gotten a number of complaints from the public about the last minute switch of Ms. Moore, and I'm questioning this process. I wanted to ask Ian Wilson his professionalism on any recourse that we might have available.
Well, I think the charter is very perfectly clear on the matter, and I don't think there's any discretion. The people that may feel that they've been slighted, but they can't say that it's illegal or wrong to move forward with the way that I've just proposed.
Are you an attorney, Mr. Hodge?
No. But I have to warn the council, the time is of the essence. And if we don't take action, and if we drag our feet, and we don't do anything, then we'll lose control. We won't have any ability to select the candidate for replacing District 2 seat. Terry Moore will have absolute power to do that. And so we can do nothing and then allow Terry Moore to make that selection. Or we can take the action ourselves, and we can control her own destiny here.
I was reading a publication that her intention of switching was directly related to having power of the legislature.
Well, then take that power from her, and let's make that choice ourselves. She has no power, she has no ability to select any candidate of any party affiliation unless we don't do it by January 3rd. So if you want to drag your feet and not do anything, then you're advocating that it's okay for her to go ahead and move forward with this.
No, I just want an opinion from.
Well, where have you been for the last 2 weeks?
Oh, I've been checking.
This is
in.
not new. This is not new. This is something that happened several weeks ago.
Yes, and I have been checking into it, and, depending on who you talk to, the, language that's in our charter, is typically not found, that, it's the majority of time that that person is within a party, that it's recognized, that this is definitely an exception to the rule. Doug, did you have something to say?
Sure, I would agree with that. I would also like to have a written opinion from council as to what, procedure we should follow here. I mean, to me, this whole thing is a farce. I mean, from what I've heard, the decision's already been made, but I would like to see what procedure the charter lays out once this situation, comes into play. So I would agree with that.
The decision cannot be made because we have control. We make that decision. So how can you say the decision has been made when we make the decision? That doesn't make sense at all.
I just read the newspaper.
I don't think, I never read in the paper that the decision's been made, and I never heard of it, I doubt that it has, and
Well, first of all, before we get into this business with the written opinion, last week, and I want to reiterate this week, I want the county executive to come down here before us, now that we apparently are tasked with this responsibility, and explain her actions here. Why did she go about doing this? I mean, like I said, I've read the papers, and I haven't seen anything to my satisfaction to explain why she undertook this a few weeks after the election, in which she ran as a Republican. She didn't bother to inform the civil committee, which had already went ahead and had interviews and taken applications. So I want her here across from us, and I want to hear her explanation for why she did what she did. That's first and foremost. Second of all, I would like to get an opinion from Warren Wilson about what procedure do we follow here? How many names do we take? How many names do we put up? We don't know. The charter is entirely silent on that. So
I think that when the law is silent, then it's our obligation to put a process in place. And we can self-determine that process right here, right now.
Mr. Hodges, you're not an attorney, and we certainly need an attorney to weigh in on this, make sure we do it right. And I agree with, Councilman Dunn that, I would like to have, hold on a minute. No more interrupting, just let me finish talking and then you can speak. Councilman, or County Executive, Moore does need to come down here and explain her actions. You know, we're reading things in the newspaper, I'd like to hear it from her. And, to explain why did she do this. You know, the Republican Central Committee is tasked with the express purpose of filling vacancies. That's why they were, elected, that's their task, in being elected by the public. So that was taken away from them, just in a minor technicality, which we need to get clarification on. Is it just a technicality?
If you were here during the swearing in, you would have heard Carrie flat out explain why she was doing what she did and why she did it. And then, as far as I know, that her speech was verbatim in the Cecil Guardian. So it's right out in the hallway. If you just want to walk across the hall, pick it up and read it. I think her entire speech is listed there, word for word. And now, give Alan a chance.
That is exactly what I was going to say. If you come to the meeting at approximately 12:15 on December 3rd, she gave a full explanation to everyone in this room why she did what she did.
Yeah,
I
and
don't
I'm
think
not-
that you are deserving of any personal face-to-face meeting with her, if she decides not to do it. Number two, the charter clearly states what's to happen in the event that we have this situation. Why don't you read the charter?
Who said I didn't read the charter?
I'm saying, why is this a problem if you know the charter? The charter says that the Republican Central Committee will present 3 people to replace the candidate's position. She's unaffiliated, we have an open forum right now, we addressed this the other night, and you refused to talk about it. I do not think that this belabors a lot more
You had
time.
an open forum?
The other night, we spoke about this. You specifically denied Mr. Hodges' request to discuss replacement of the second district council person.
What concerns me is, we have a new elected legislative body, and you too,
Read your council, read your charter, please.
you interrupted me again.
I'm awful sorry I've interrupted you, Diana.
Okay, apology accepted. I'm deeply concerned that we have a legislative body that is okay, 2 members are perfectly fine with Terry Moore, county executive, being able to, pick.
She is not able to pick. You are giving her the obligation to pick because
I'm
you
just
won't
doing
pick.
what you said,
No, I'm not.
I'm listening to what she said.
We have the power to make the selection, but you are choosing to defer it to the executive.
She anticipates, according to what she said, that it's gonna be
Don't
2.
worry about what she says. Go by your rules and regulations.
Are you done?
Yes, well, for time being, I'm done.
Okay. She anticipates that it's gonna be a 2-2 vote, so she will end up choosing. And you two are okay with that?
Now, what would make you think she anticipates a 2-2 vote?
Wasn't that why she switched?
I don't
That's
know,
what
I
was-
don't know why.
that's
Well,
what
we
she
don't
said.
know,
She
that's
said
why
she
we
switched
switched out.
because it was the best interest of the citizens of
You just said
County to
Yeah.
do what she did, and I believe her in her word.
Councilman, you just said I had to go and pay homage at court. I can't have the Queen come before us here and have a face-to-face conversation with her. And you're saying you were there and you don't even know why she switched. So which is
She
it? You
gave
can't
us the
have both
explanation,
ways.
I know why she switched, it was in the benefit of Cecil County that she switched her party affiliation or become.
Well, what does that mean?
unaffiliated. I don't know, you take it for what you think it means.
I don't want to take it for what I think it means. I want to hear it from her. Why-
Well, you had the opportunity and you basically forewent that possibility.
Well, you were there and you don't even know. So-
I most certainly do know.
Well,
Read
tell
the
us.
newspaper.
Enlighten
Does
us.
anyone have a copy of the newspaper to speech?
I shouldn't have to read the newspaper. She should come to me directly. Why can't I have a face-to-face with the county exec?
You can't.
Is her entire
I
speech
can,
in
I
paper?
was told I can't.
You can't. You can do it anytime you choose.
Okay, well, that's good.
She has a telephone, she has a email. Okay, I'm not sure that you would be satisfied with her explanation. to begin
Mr.
with.
McCarthy?
That's probably true.
Yeah, Councilman McCarthy, that wasn't the only, comments that she's made relative to why she switched.
Okay. It doesn't matter if it's switched. That is not
It
our
matters to me.
concern.
It matters to me,
That's
and it
fine.
matters to the public.
It certainly matters to the public.
What matters is that we
It matters.
fill the vacancy, and we fill it with the most qualified person that lives in that district. Well, that's what matters, and the failure of our action will allow her to do what you want her to do.
Councilman Hodge, this is a crying shame. The people were, a lot of people were, excuse me? A lot of people were, paranoid, I'll say, of charter government, because they felt that it was being set up so that one person could have all the power. And look what's happened. Now, Councilman Hodge, you had said that you didn't vote for charter. Did you vote for the charter board?
I did.
Yes, you voted for charter. Let's get that clear.
So what I'm hearing is that we want a written opinion from Norman on the charter, is that what
The
you're
time,
requesting, a
can we
written
agree
opinion?
at least on that?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
I don't think it's necessary. We don't need to waste our money, the county's money, the taxpayers' money, on opinions that really are not that important when the charter is perfectly clear on the process, or really on who the responsible party is, and that is the council. We are the responsible party, and we need to take action. We need to determine the process. And I'll just put it into a motion that I propose that we send a press release out to all of the known media outlets in Cecil County, advertising the open position and asking for expressions of interest from any qualified citizen who lives or has lived in District 2 for more than 6 months to send their resume and expression of interest to the council for consideration.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Second.
So there's seems like a reasonable request. The only problem is I don't have an attorney here to ask, a real attorney, that if I were to go along with this, I was being complicit in following through with the process that Ms. Moore put in place. So I'm voting against this.
Well, same here. I would like to know what the procedure is before we go ahead and put out any applications or anything like that. I, again, think it's a reasonable request to have opinion from council before we proceed, and I don't understand the reluctance here.
Motion.
And let me point out also, that this is the technicality that Ms. Moore, played in switching her party. This is the mess that she's created.
If I might speak for a second, I found the article, or basically the explanation for the party change, so please read it to the audience.
Excuse me, this is out of order.
This is what you asked for.
You're making it sound like that's the.
This, you wanted an explanation why she did what she did. It's right there in the paper, word by word.
I don't want to read some
Yes.
rag. I don't trust anything that's in there.
You just said that you base your opinions on what you read in the newspaper.
I wasn't referring to that. I don't.
Oh, not this newspaper, maybe another
Wait,
newspaper.
excuse me, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Someone call for the vote. There's a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion fails. Next on the agenda is proposed resolution, interim council procedures. Councilman Hogg, Treviso.
Last week, we agreed to not select a president of this council. And I asked Vicki to prepare a resolution that basically formalizes the understanding that we will not have a president, an individual president, that collectively we will act to execute the duties of the president of the council and shall act to conduct the business of the council. That means that no individual person or councilman can take action without the collective action of the majority moving forward. And basically it formalizes it and allows us to work together to make that decision, and will allow, when we do take action on business, and we did take some action last week at our public session, and I anticipate we'll take some action on some of the county business at our next meeting on the 18th, but I believe that this resolution kind of formalizes what we agreed to move forward without precedent until our replacement member is appointed.
Oh, so we're moving forward without president? There is no president then? Or collectively, we're all president?
No, we're gonna act collectively. There is no president. We're gonna act collectively to execute the duties of the president. It's clearly spelled out in the resolution.
Yeah. So if we wanted to bring something and put it on the agenda, each one of us could put it on the agenda?
Absolutely.
We're collectively acting as president.
No.
Individually, collective. If we're all president, then we
We're
can
not
step
all,
on the.
we're not all president. There is no president. We are collectively acting to execute the duties of president.
Right, okay.
I asked last Tuesday to introduce this as an introduction item. There's no ulterior motive in this bill or resolution. It just kind of formalizes our understanding that we are acting without a formal precedent. And I guess I'll put this in a motion that I'm introducing this resolution for consideration by the entire board for action at our next meeting.
There's a motion on the floor to introduce this resolution for consideration at the next council meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second. Any further discussion? Being no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Councilman McCarthy, you were in favor? It was 2-2.
Yes, I was.
Okay. Didn't hear the vote. Okay. Motion fails. Next, proposed, discussion internal auditor appointment, Councilwoman Brunel.
Well, the option one, we could do, an expression of interest. The in-house auditor would be on call for specific tasks. But I would say that option two would be the way to go and to, put out a, advertisement looking for a full-time in-house auditor. The scope of the, description that we have, approved. Does the scope of work justifies need for the full-time? And, procedural tests to help reduce costs would be, external auditor. And, certain procedural tests of a year in audit can be performed by the county auditor. The in-house auditor's reports help to confirm to the outside auditor that the county's internal controls are effective. That's about 20% of the duties. 40% is to identify risk assessment, and it's, risk assessment is the basis for developing an audit plan, usually 2 to 3 years, in length. What should, be included and in what order. Most of the audit time, 40%, is spent in areas that review costs, procedures, and functions. Part of the benefit is the benefit that processes are improved, wasteful functions questioned and eliminated or changed, and part is to ensure that backup processes exist. Fiscal note on proposed bills, economic analysis, who's impacted, government or business, or others, research specific questions from council members. Fourth, maintain skills through, in-house training and attending meetings. Auditors should not be a part of the control approval process, but should be aware of the county's functions, citizens' concerns, employees' concerns. Investigating complaints will result in more activity, but some will, take a full time. Questions for the auditor. We have questions about the sheriff's department, community policing costs possibly related, how much, if we, start, a program like this, how much can we anticipate more we would have to spend? Or how much can we anticipate would be saved in getting the community involved? Questions regarding justified costs for take-home vehicles. Are the current policies foolproof to monitor how much the vehicles are used, personal use for deputies outside of the county? Cecil County Public Schools, had a lengthy discussion on the Basel building, and further construction projects, additional oversight for the construction manager. DPW, cost justified for contracted services to review plans or hire full-time employees. In, the 10, I believe it's 10 or 11 charter counties, all of them have in-house auditors except for Talbot and Dorchester, who have, 30,000, in population each. Wycomico is closest, 90,000, yes, they have an in-house auditor. And, the in-house auditor last year for Wycomico did an audit, postage audit report, sharing fees and billing audit, the Department of Correction, narcotics, storage risk management assessment audit, time and attendance consultation, 2011 annual report, purchase card audit, fuel system audit, telecommunications audit. So, there's no doubt in my mind that on the legislative side, we need to balance out the information, the power. You know, it's what you know. The information is gonna help us make a balanced, decision on, what we're gonna support. And, would like to hear your feedback on that, if you would support.
Well, I guess I'll get started. I voted for this motion back when it was brought up under the old county commissioner form of government. I think it will be beneficial to the council. I think we do need someone we can refer to for financial information, and I agree that it's a separation of powers issue in my mind, so I would support putting it out there for advertisement. I think it's what you were advocating.
I believe you have to do a budget amendment for the salary, for the position. There's no money in the salary at this time.
Just a job description, I think is what we did previously.
You're gonna have to do a budget amendment.
Now, I thought there was an amendment for half a year.
No, no.
So you did a council manager and a,
No, it was a separate budget amendment that was passed by the commissioners to allow a half year's, salary and benefits for this position.
I thought so.
oh, okay, sorry, my mistake.
But I believe that it's premature to hire this position. I think that if we have immediate questions about, the sheriff's department, the schools, or anywhere else, we should ask the executive office to investigate and get answers for your questions if you can't find out the answers on your own. We should reinstitute the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee and task them with looking into these questions that you may have. Or, I think that if they're complicated questions that need a lot of detailed information, then I would consider hiring a subject matter expert consultant that would know specific knowledge about specific matters that you may have questions on, rather than someone that is a jack of all trades and knows a little bit about everything and hardly anything about the rest. So I think it's something that we need to talk about in the future as we move forward. I don't think that we're moving forward very fast, so I'm not a big fan of expanding positions or growing government. And until we get our act together and move this county forward, I'm not supporting additional positions hired by the council.
So not only do you not support getting an opinion from an attorney, you think we can answer those questions ourselves?
No, I said you.
Same thing here, yeah, with the, finding out the information. I can tell you, Mr. Feely, I've went to many times, and he provided some really good insight that contradicted other sources. And if I didn't have that source, Mr. Feely, that's all he reads, statements. He knows where to look to cut through and find the real information. I'm not trained as an auditor. Some things I can research on my own, but there's a reason why all these other charter counties have in-house auditors.
And I didn't say that there won't be a purpose for it in a future date.
You feel that we can just go to the county executive and trust the information that's coming out of her office, then that should be good enough.
Until such time as she's proven you or me wrong, I think that we should. I think that she does have a director of finance, and she has other people within that department that are capable of doing financial analysis. And I certainly trust her judgment, and I trust her department, and I trust her staff to come up with the right answers. And if we, the board, or the council disagree, and then at that point in time, we can go and look at alternates. But I don't wanna hire somebody just to double check, triple check everything that the executive does. And I think it's the role of the executive to answer your questions, that you have about the other issues. She has the staff, she has the employees at her disposal, and I think that if you have questions about any entity, we can ask them and see if she can get the answers for you.
It's my opinion, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that this independent auditor would basically inspect or oversee effective governance, cost-effective programs, and the organizational operation. Is that essentially what we're agreeing to? An overseer of these programs?
No, there's more.
No,
One
I'm
of
just
the-
saying basically.
Well, one of the bigger items that, I can also see a benefit in, when, bills are brought before us, in the General Assembly, there is the, legislative services that do the, fiscal notes, and they research what kind of impact the legislation is going to have.
Okay, I will concede that to you, but what I'm saying is I think that the internal auditor basically is almost a watchdog for the government.
Yes,
Who would choose this independent auditor? Because this auditor needs to be independent. Who would you have choose this person?
that would be the council.
I would suggest to you that if we needed an independent auditor in this government, it should be chosen or basically suggested by the executive, and basically then we would create an audit committee, which then independently would position this auditor. If the council chooses it, I can assure you that the auditor will be responsive to the council and to no one else.
So you would have our county executive, make the choice?
I would most certainly do that, and if she didn't do an effective job, I'd make sure she was dismissed, her and the auditor. Now, that's just a number of pointed questions, and you might answer them individually. You've already specified what this independent auditor would do, and you've specified you think his details would be. What would happen if we chose to do nothing at this particular point in time?
We would not be prepared when things were brought before us. We would not be proactive in ways that we could save money.
So really what you want is your own independent auditor for yourself. You don't want someone who is effectively going to evaluate the in-place procedures now. You want someone to consult with the council specifically.
No, they can also review the in-house.
Then they would not be independent, I'm suggesting. An independent person has no dog in his fight. They just look at what's happening and see if it works or it doesn't, and make suggestions as how it could be improved or eliminated. Now,
I've gotten opinions from, one of the people I went to was, Winston Robinson, Ms. Moore's, choice for finance director. And he absolutely endorses this in us having it on our side for responsible government.
well,
Some food for
once
thought.
again, maybe I don't understand, but I think that this person is supposed to function to be a watchdog over the way that the government is operating. I think that what you want is basically someone to consult with you, or the council as a whole,
No,
in
this-
conflict or in opposition to the executive.
No, if you were listening, there's a lot more responsibilities that this.
And how much would this
auditor
person
has.
cost? I mean, what is a respective salary for this person?
What I was, from memory, it seemed like it was 70 or 80,000 a year.
I think it was a total of approximately $100,000 a year with all benefits included, salary and benefits.
Well, are benefits not money?
Yes. We haven't done much as a council. At this rate, I don't see us doing much going forward. And again, I'm gonna have to say that this is just premature for us to be discussing adding a new position. And when we have ability. Now, I have to say, as a county commissioner, I was able to use my professional resources to get a lot of answers that I needed to make intelligent decisions as a county commissioner. I know several CPAs. I know several business owners that have employees and take care of business. And I've used them as resources to help me figure out how to make good choices as a commissioner. And I would encourage you to develop those relationships too, so that we don't have to have a $100,000 person on the payroll to give us advice.
Councilman Hodge, are those people familiar with the costs of our county government? How could they be familiar? How could they access quickly? How would they have access? We're losing our treasurer. He had access. He was elected by the people. You're putting into our county executive's hands, once again, full power of finance discernment, financial discernment.
Okay, again, for the record, I fully trust the judgment of our executive. I believe that the staff that worked with the county executive will do a good job of representing the people and providing the information that we need to make good, sound decisions. And I don't see the need at this time, and I'm reserving the right to change my mind. I'm reserving the right to change my mind about this issue, but I believe that I want to give the benefit of the doubt to the executive branch to act intelligently and professionally and accurately to provide to us the decisions that we need to make good, sound decisions.
I don't think you have a full understanding of what charter was meant to be. Unless you had an understanding of what you wanted it to be.
In Terry we trust, is that what I'm hearing?
That's what it sounds like.
Okay, I believe that there's no need for a vote. I think we've discussed this sufficiently.
Oh, no, I want to vote.
Okay, go ahead.
Stay your nose.
Make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we put out advertisement for the in-house auditor.
There's a motion on the floor to advertise for an in-house auditor. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a first and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion fails. Next on your agenda is the expression of interest for legal services. You have a copy of the notice for the paper. You're just seeking authority to go ahead and advertise that. Does everyone have a chance to review it? Do you have anything else to add, or?
I was okay with it.
Everybody okay with it?
I'm okay with it.
Okay, we got that in the paper. Next on your agenda was a Board of Health Constitution discussion with Health Officer Stephanie Garrity. That has been postponed. Professor Daschle was not available to be able to do the conference call this morning, and that will be put back on your agenda in the future. It's basically a discussion to give you options for how you are to meet as a Board of Health. You are by law have to meet as the Board of Health. So there will be, that's what they're bringing forward as options for you to continue that. Next on your agenda is discussion council legislative meeting decorum. Councilwoman Brunel.
Well, it's come to our attention that the decorum at these meetings, work session and legislative, is becoming increasingly disruptive. And a lot of codes do include decorum at public meetings, or Robert's Rules of Order have different versions of what we could adopt. Before I go any further, is there any agreement that we could adopt some basic principles that we could follow? Does anybody have any problem with that, or?
I'm not willing to go outside the Robert's Rules of Order. If Robert's Rules of Orders has, some discussion about this matter and how to maintain, a good, effective meeting, that's fine. I'm not willing to go outside of Robert's Rules of Order to put any infringement upon the public in their opportunity to come before the council and speak their mind.
I agree with that, and the suggestions, that were pulled, it comes from various versions of Robert's Rules of Order. Are some of these just rules of council?
What you have in your packet is information that was pulled from the website from General Code, and you have, samples of ordinances, that are part of the council rules and procedures for meetings, so that if you wanted to do something with that, that would be one avenue to add that to your council rules and procedures, which you are still,
So
is still
none
under
of these
discussion.
are Robert's Rules of Order?
No.
Okay, well, let's just look over a few of these suggestions, and then we'll go back to Robert's Rules and see if we can find them in there. One of the, does anybody have a problem with this if we find it, closely worded in Robert's Rules of Order? Any person making offensive, insulting, threatening, insolent, slanderous, or obscene remarks, or who becomes boisterous, or who makes threats against any person or against public order and security while in the boardroom shall be forthwith removed at the direction of the presiding officer from further audience at the meeting, unless permission to continue is granted by the majority vote of the board members present.
I've not seen any of those things.
You haven't seen any of those things.
I haven't seen any threatening gestures whatsoever.
That wasn't the only thing I said.
I heard the other things, but I don't think there's anything outrageous.
Well, here is on the other hand, I think the public can make their statements in a more respectful way, such as all remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body, and not to any member thereof. Speakers shall observe the commonly accepted rules of courtesy, decorum, dignity, and good taste. Interested parties or their representatives may address the council by written, no, I don't have to do that. But basically,
Well, maybe you could send this out to us, and we can look over for next week.
okay, well, I think I can
That we
probably,
can refer to.
yes, I have looked at Robert's Rules, I assume this was coming from Robert's Rules, but I can find the language, for, adopting decorum at the public meetings, and we'll start from there. Is that okay with you? As long as it's within Robert's Rules, correct, Robert?
Yes, and I'll be happy to read anything you wanna put out to propose, and I'll read it, and I'll take it seriously, but I'm not going to try to infringe upon the public's ability to come to meetings and express their feelings. Now, I have to say, this brings back memories, because more than 2 years ago, there was a female member of this council that came to commissioner meetings and ranted and raved and screamed at commissioners, made broad accusations, insinuations, and was never told to leave. And there was never any comment.
Yeah, so let-
There was, wait,
I'll let
let's
you
finish.
finish.
There was no commissioner ever tried to put up decorum laws or ordinances to prevent that particular individual from coming, meeting after meeting, and ranting and raving about the actions of certain commissioners. Now, I find it very interesting that all of a sudden the tables are turned. Here we are.
I
Now,
remember,
tell
I
me
was
the
there.
difference. Tell me the difference between what was happening then and what's happening today.
Your memory is quite selective. If we had recorded meetings, which I instituted, by the way, you'd see, I was testifying, and all I was doing was presenting the information certain people didn't want to hear. information I had an opportunity to finally get out and ask, you know, hoping for a response, hoping that, there'd be some sort of accountability, because the ethics were not being enforced at that time. And even then, the, Sergeant at Arms, because the SPCA issue was, in full force, there was a Sergeant of Arms here, and he was walking towards me because he was told to pull me from the meeting, and the people started screaming, "Let her talk." So I have no objection to people sharing their concerns in a civilized manner, and I think it's important that we do that. But when the crowd becomes disruptive, and there are certain people that seem to be supporters of yours, that are constantly hooting and cheering and hollering, according to our Mr. McCarthy out there, that they're inciting the audience on purpose, there needs to be some control brought back. So I don't mind people sharing their concerns, that it can be done in a respectful manner. There needs to be accountability. If they think someone is doing something wrong, they should be able to do it in a civilized way. And I was civilized.
I guess that's up to the interpretation of the individual, because there's no doubt in my mind that I believe that certain individuals have crossed the line of good civility in the past, both currently and in the distant past. And I believe that they were all testifying about the issues that were important to them. And I think they were all trying to ask, and many of them were out of frustration for some of the things that were happening. And that's why I believe strongly that the Citizens Corner is an opportunity for the citizens to come and ask a lot of questions. Because as you know, when they testify in their public comment, many times they're asking questions. They want to know. And that's why I encourage you and Mike and all the council members to show up and answer their questions. Because many times when they come here to the public hearing, they're very frustrated. They're very frustrated because they haven't gotten what they need as far as understanding why we're doing what we're doing. And we don't do a good enough job of acknowledging their concerns and listening to them.
You don't have to sell me on that. I in fact kept asking Ms. Moore, when are you gonna schedule these citizens' corners? And finally it was scheduled. And the problem is that I was at, I had heard that there was a lady that had, you know very well, that you had made mention of the fact that Mike and I weren't at the last, second to the last Citizens Corner, and she let you know that she understood why I wasn't there. If there was some civility brought back to the Citizens Corner, and some decorum, that she had heard numerous complaints from the audience. And, you know, maybe you're just out of touch, but go talk with your security guard who has to witness this, and I know you heard it firsthand from this lady because you know her very well. So I appreciate her for speaking up.
Well, I think we just want to be careful here and be fair. We don't want to restrict anybody's First Amendment rights. I think we all can agree last Tuesday's meeting was a bit out of control on both sides. I mean, that was at least my observation. So I would certainly be open to looking at whatever you have to present, and we can take it up later.
I'll make sure I get the Robert's Rules of Order.
Okay, next on your agenda is council items. Councilman McCarthy?
Is this where you're allowed to just kind of speak what you think?
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Apparently we're getting nowhere quick on this council. I would strongly suspend the council without pay until such time comes that we can put another council person on the board. And hopefully communicate more effectively and get something done on behalf of the citizens of Cecil County.
I would go further than that. I would say we can suspend their meetings unless we're going to take the time and effort to, evaluate and select, the appointment for District 2's vacant seat. And furthermore, I would suggest that, we all, forego our pay and salary and suspend it and benefits until such time as, we get our act together.
Our benefits?
Yes, our salary and benefits.
We have no benefits.
We do have it until the end of the year.
Well, I think, Vicki, we explored this option, did we not? And I think we have business
Yes.
amendments and things like that because.
You have a resolution that was introduced that, has a deadline and requires your action at your next meeting on December the 18th.
Right. Okay.
The resolution that was introduced by Economic Development Director Lisa Webb.
Is it my turn?
Yes.
Okay. Well, since the county exec, switched to unaffiliated 2 weeks ago, which none of us were quite sure why she did it apparently. I've heard from many people that, she's still a good Republican and she intends to return to the fold very soon. And it was with that in mind last week where I saw that one of her first major appointments was Winston Robinson as finance director. And I have to say, I'm shocked again and a little disappointed, and I think it's clear to me the Republican voters of this county were sold a bill of goods, and, I don't know, that's all I have to say on it right now, but I was very disturbed when I saw that, so.
I'm gonna switch to another topic. The drug awareness forums, the last one we had, the workshop with Marie Allen, was a powerful testimony of how she had lost her daughter to a heroin overdose when Erin was only 21 years old. And I'm so pleased to hear that Pleasant View Baptist is going to be hosting Marie Allen, and we have a middle school as well. She's booked January 9th and 10th to speak to the middle school. Tonight, there's a town hall meeting in Charlestown, and I've spoken with Commissioner Capano. She's very interested in community policing. So I'm gonna be attending that, and our next workshop for the drug awareness will be on, community policing. Apparently over in Harford County, they have made a number of strides in addressing their crime problem. And, they're rated number 2 in the state in safe communities. One of the biggest, impacts is because of their program, in getting the community involved. So, hopefully, there is some things that will be, not so, I guess, it'd be nice if it was cost neutral, there might be some cost related. But anytime that we can get the community involved and, active and taking back their communities, and, we saw where Lakeside, we saw the arrest of a family, in heroin distribution. I know there's been a citizen there that has been working very hard to take back our community. So, I'd like to see more of that throughout the county, and, we'll see if we get some good information tonight.
Being no further, items on the agenda, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.